Hi guys, my name is Tomcat and welcome to a brand new video in Forza Horizon 4 in the Stock vs. Tuned series. Now this is a requested battle, the Koenigsegg Agera RS versus a Lamborghini Gallardo. I chose the 570 Performante for this one, but there's a slight twist to this episode of Stock vs. Tuned, and that is that I am going to be using my wheel. Now, I've been asked before, do I use a wheel? And this is kind of going to be the answer to that. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but I figured it would be a little bit more fun and add a little bit more immersion into the Stock vs. Tuned series, not only to use a wheel, but it might also add some, some fun fails into it, because the wheel certainly allows for interesting scenarios like that to happen. And one of the main things actually is I left this clip in. I was originally not going to have this clip in the video, but I left it in because I was like, yeah, that deserves to be there. It's just like one of those things where you're like, okay, I got my wheel ready to go. I've got a Jetta in front of me, and I'm going to turn, I'm going to accelerate, and I'm going to slam into the Jetta. It's just like, it's stuff like that that happens with a wheel that you can't really get anywhere else. Now, driving the Agera RS with the wheel is absolutely bonkers. You have to rewrite what your brain processes as, you have to rewrite what your brain thinks about what a car's gonna do. Because this car, it will build boost quicker than anything else, it will spin up its rear tires quicker than anything else, and it will also snap quicker than anything else. So, it's literally like, you know what it's literally like? It's like driving a big V8 Swedish MR2 is what I can describe it as. But it actually makes for a really fun and engaging car to drive. Now, when I went to go do my speed run, I didn't do any sort of launch control or anything like that, because that's something that I do on a controller, whereas when I'm using a wheel, I usually just get it up to about the RPM that I want it and ease it out of the hole, and then just kind of control the throttle with actually literally with my right foot, as opposed to a trigger on a controller. But you have a lot more control if you're using an actual pedal, plus your foot is used to that movement. Your foot thinks that movement is normal. But we crossed the speed trap at 249 miles an hour. Now, that is insanely fast. It's blisteringly fast. And I had no, assumptions that the stock Gallardo was going to get even anywhere close to that. And spoiler alert, the stock one doesn't get anywhere close. The tuned one, you're going to have to wait to the end of the video and see. But the stock LP570 Gallardo, yeah, it's not going to be getting close to 249 miles an hour from the factory. But I had to turn around and do a run with this thing in the other direction, because driving the Agera RS, especially with a wheel, you just get so blown away by the speed, and also blown away by the speed at which your inputs have to be made. Because if you don't make your inputs quick enough, the car will just be like, okay, we're done here. It literally just says, we're done, we're backwards. It literally has no, it doesn't sugarcoat anything. That car doesn't sugarcoat anything whatsoever. Now, jumping over to the LP570 Lamborghini Gallardo, it was definitely a different experience. You know, you've got your four-wheel drive, you've got way less horsepower. It's still a very fast car, but you've got so much less horsepower and so much more all-wheel drive. It's not really the best way to word, talking about all-wheel drive, but nonetheless, it just feels like you can floor it everywhere. And I know that that's kind of a weird thing to say about a 570 horsepower supercar, but after you've gotten out of a rear-wheel drive Koenigsegg and gotten into an all-wheel drive Lamborghini, the all-wheel drive Lamborghini feels like you can floor it everywhere in the same way you would a Miata or a, BRZ. So, going to launch this car, it was very easy. I don't know why I don't know why I overthought the launch. I just basically kind of figured out where I wanted the RPMs and dumped it and went. And really, when these are stock, getting them off the line is very simple, because again, they're all-wheel drive. You just got to pick an RPM that's high enough that it won't bog out, and then just dump it and go. And that's about all there is to it as far as launching these cars. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about in this video is if you guys want to see more stock versus tuned with the steering wheel, make sure you let me know in the comments below that it's something that you guys would like to see, because if you guys would like to see more stock versus tuned with the wheel, it's definitely something I would be happy to do. And that's mainly because playing Forza, whether you're playing Horizon or Motorsport, in my opinion, yes, it's a little bit more, there's a little bit more stuff to set up with the wheel, but at the end of the day, it's also just so much more fun. And it really, you know, I think sometimes it can be a little frustrating in the beginning when you're just getting used to it, but once you've been using a wheel for a while, you kind of just would rather play Forza that way. Again, whether it's Motorsport or Horizon, because again, it's just more fun, it's more engaging. You feel like you're actually driving something as opposed to just, you know, using a controller to kind of move a car around, you know, in a game. You actually feel immersed when you're using the wheel, and especially when you're using one that's got really good force feedback and you feel those, like, all of the little intricacies of the car, it really is engaging. Now, building up the car, you may have noticed that we decided to go with the Racing V12 swap, because in my head, I was like, okay, I really like the way the V10 sounds, but I know that the V10 is not going to be able to be built enough to compete with the power of the Agera RS. And frankly, I wasn't sure whether or not the Racing V12 was going to be able to compete with the Agera RS either. So that's what, but I figured that the Racing V12 swap was our best bet, because the Agera RS is no slouch of an opponent, and we really need to be building this car to the max if we're going to even attempt to get anywhere close to that car. And I think that, you know, I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to say, why didn't you leave the V10 in it? Why didn't you leave the V10 in it? And there's one main reason. We have an opposing car to beat. And when you have a opponent that that your whole target is to beat that opponent, you have to use all the resources available to you. Now, also, recently in the update, they added more cars to the list of cars where you can adjust the wheel offset, and I just was really tickled to find that this was one of those cars. And I still haven't found the entire list of cars that, you know, that they've actually added offset adjustment to, but it's something like well over 100 more cars that have offset adjustments now, which is crazy to me that they've gone through and added it to that many cars. I mean, really, most cars should have it now, and really the only things that wouldn't have it I can think of are maybe super exclusive hypercars and or purpose-built race cars where you wouldn't be adjusting the offset anyway, because the wheels that they're running are already at the offset that they would run in race trim, so it makes sense that you wouldn't be able to adjust those. Now, picking a set of wheels for this car was actually kind of tricky, because the wheels on this car already are actually very, very light. So I was kind of going through my options, and I settled on a interesting idea, and it's kind of more of a fantasy idea rather than a real life replica idea. And I decided to go with these center lock speed lines. And the reason why I decided to go for those is because I was like, first of all, nobody really does these on any of the Lamborghinis, and also it's just a clean-looking design, and with that massive center lock nut in the middle, not a lot of spokes, not a very complicated wheel design, and it just looks right. It just looks good. So I figured that was going to be a cool look on the car, and I wasn't disappointed when we put these on the car. I think it set the car off very, very well, and I know that there's going to be tons of opinions about wheels. There always are. I mean, there's always going to be that one person that goes, why did you change the wheels? Because the stock ones look better. And there's also always going to be those people that are like, well, those wheels you picked were ugly. Why didn't you pick these? And I've come to the realization that wheels are literally one of the most subjective, like, things in the world as far as taste goes. So everybody's going to like a different wheel, and you can only please so many people with your wheel choice. And I've kind of not only figured this out in Forza, but with my real cars as well, because every time I've put wheels on any of my real cars, there are always people that say, well, you should have picked this, or you should have picked that, or those wheels are ugly, you should have gone with these. And it's kind of one of those never-ending debates that you're always going to go through as a car guy. It's like, what wheel looks better? But setting off in the modified Lamborghini Gallardo Performante, this thing is mental. I mean, it really is crazy. The sound of that Racing V12 is just shrieking howl of an engine, and I came into this corner way too hot. I'm still getting used to the power, but I had to kind of reset myself because I was like, yeah, we're coming in way too hot, and you're just going to understeer off if you keep going. But massive, massive speed out of this car. At this point, I was unsure whether or not we were going to have a shot at the Agera RS because I was kind of 50-50 in my head. I was kind of 50-50. I was like, maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know. But lining up, I was still pretty hopeful that this thing would have a chance. And then after I launched it, which, by the way, I shouldn't have launched it in second gear. I got a crap ton of clutch slip out of it. As you can see, it was just literally... It was literally just like a mild amount of wheel spin and then a bunch of clutch slip. Now, first off, I was going, wow, this thing is really fast. And then I got to thinking about it. I was like, wait a minute, we're not over 200 already. And then I was like, oh, we're not beating the Agera RS. We trapped at 218.19 miles an hour, and that's even with increased acceleration. So, well, not a ton, but a little bit of messing with the final drive. It got close-ish, but the Agera RS was still almost 30 miles an hour faster, which is a lot. Like, that is a huge amount for a car to trap faster than its opponent. I mean, 30 miles an hour when you're talking over 200 is a massive number. But if you guys enjoyed this episode of Stock vs. Tuned, make sure to click that like button. Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe for more. And I'll see y'all next time. Talk to you guys later.